the block producer panel. Everybody's coming in. We have 6 block producer candidates and Thomas Cox himself coming. So here they all come. There's Mr. Cox and Sharif and Sebastian. I believe, Sebastian, you're from EOS Argentina. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
And Sharif, we've seen you before from EOS Dublin. And Marcin, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah. Marcin from
Tokenika.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hello again.
Hey, guys. Nice to meet you guys. And
hello.
Sharif, nice to meet you again. Marcin, nice to meet you again. Thomas.
And Boy?
Yes. Hi. I'm here from EOS Amsterdam. Yes.
EOS
hello.
Amsterdam. Hello.
Hello.
Good to meet all you guys.
Yeah.
Or see some of you again. And Zhao Yu. Sorry. Is it Zhao Yu?
Hello.
Hello.
Good to meet all you guys.
And if someone has their YouTube, if you have your YouTube turned on, if you could mute that, please. It gives a little feedback. Goes back in. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. So this is a block producer panel. We had our first one 2 weeks ago, and we just like to go through a few questions with you guys and sort of open the floor as well to have you sort of interface with each other. And of course, Mr. Cox here as well, just to put out a new video that he recorded. So we've had a lot of new information in the last 2 weeks. So there's probably a lot to talk about. Actually, Mr. Cox, if it's okay, I'd like to have you sort of take the floor for a moment and offer your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did promise one audience member that I would take a question on the air. I want to insert that here right at the beginning before we get into the block producer roundtable. And so take his question, then I'll tell you about that video I posted. His question had to do with the site he runs called staked.us, and it's they let people they hold other people's proof of stake tokens, and they harvest the staking rewards from various chains, and then they share them back to the beneficial owners and take a cut as middlemen. He's like, I don't think I can do that on EOS, can I? I'm like, dude, where do I start? Owning tokens you don't stake tokens for rewards. Block producers get rewards, and honestly, very modest rewards for being block producers. And you don't become a block producer by staking. You get it by being voted for. So it's a completely different model. His model, I'm sure, is lovely for those straightforward, simple proof of stake chains, but we have delegated proof of stake, completely different model. It's not going to work. It's not even that it's illegal. It just doesn't work, right? You can stake all the tokens all day and there's no reward flowing in from that. So sorry to disappoint you. And if you're thinking it, other people are thinking it, you can't be the only person wondering that. Welcome to delegated proof of stake. It's a different world. There's a lot to learn. So there's that. And the videos you mentioned, I posted 3 hours worth of video, 9 videos total, in a collection on Vimeo.com, with no index. They were just numbered. There was no hint as to what was in each one. And the EOS Canada guys went through and actually took notes and illustrated, so you could tell what things were said in which video. Thank you, EOS Canada. And I thought the whole thing was totally remedial. This guy, wonderful fellow, Mao from EOS Real, on his way from China through the West Coast, going to Consensus this week in New York, decided to come by Blacksburg, which involved flying into Charlotte and driving for 3 hours to get in here Sunday morning to meet with me for 3 hours. Talk about hardcore. And I'm like, okay, you can have me for 3 hours, but you get nothing special. We have to record it and share it, so you get no special treatment. And we did 3 hours. And I thought it was just totally, this is stuff I've said before. There can't be anything new here. It all felt very new to him. We posted it out on the Block Bros channel, and people were commenting, this is great, it's information-packed, it's amazing. And I thought, wow, I've done a terrible job communicating. If this is new to you, I'm sorry. So we'll just keep repeating. We'll just keep carrying it out to you as often as we can. We'll use EOS Go. We'll use every other channel we can, and get everybody as much information as possible to help you with the fire hose that is blockchain in general and the EOS project in particular. So that was the big video project.
And Eve, and just in the chat, Eve just called you the machine. Thomas Cox, the machine.
Hey, that was the easiest 3 hours of content I ever created, okay? Somebody showed up, I hit record, he asked me questions, whatever's in my head that comes out is my answer. None of this is official, like, my employer's official stance or anything. This is my best knowledge of what I know in the moment. And, the code is changing. It could be all different tomorrow. Yep. Block producer pay changed 6 times in the past 3 or 4 weeks. And I know because I did the mathematical models on each one. And the block producers know because I kept trying to get them to check my math. And then it was like, the model changed. And I was thrilled that Mao did not punch me in the face. And I'm hoping on my tour coming up, I'm going St. Louis, Detroit, Toronto, New York here later this week. I'm hoping that I will similarly be able to dodge the blows that may be aimed at me for all the many changes, and thank you all for being good sports.
Yeah, sounds like Thomas the
That's
Machine.
my opening monologue.
There it is. Well, thank you. That was great. And if you haven't gone back and watched all 3 hours yet, you should probably go. It looked like you guys were having fun too, so that was always good. Open the office on a Sunday and go in there.
Love this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the questions here. And of course, the first one is kind of basic. It's just, what is your vision for the launch? And we usually we start off by going around to everybody and hearing their individual thoughts. So Sebastian, I see you first here from EOS Argentina. If you can go ahead and
Kev, if I may interject, just so that for our viewers, before you answer, just please do a short introduction of yourself and tell us who you're representing.
Sure. Okay, well, hi guys. My name is Sebastian. I'm from EOS Argentina. We basically represent Argentina, I guess, the EOS community here in the country. The EOS community being formed for a couple of years. It started with BitShares team, so we have a nice community back then. And some of these guys were kind of like the ones who initiated the community here as like a year ago. We are 100% owned BP candidate. One of the differences that we have with other candidates is that 100% of the profits that we expect to receive from the BP are going to be used for the community here in Argentina to grow the ecosystem, to do trainings, to do events, meetups. So that's the main differentiator, I guess, we have. So going back to your question, what's the vision we have for the launch? It's going to be very exciting. We are all very excited. We're a team of people who are in this for many years. I myself, I'm here for over 6 years. I've been since the beginning in Bitcoin. Most of the guys who are in the BP here are also early Bitcoin adopters and BitShares. We have actually something very important that I like to mention is like we've been in the launch for BitShares for the BitShares blockchain. We have Witness in BitShares right now, and also we have one of the team members who actually is a Steam Witness. So I guess we are very excited because we have a lot of experience. And we've been following downline migrations for many years now, and this is taking it to a whole different level, right? What is going on right now is super exciting for us. We were discussing with the guys today about the vision that we have for the launch, and we were remembering back when the BitShares blockchain was launched. How it was and how Dan was coordinating the whole launch. And we were thinking, oh, who is going to coordinate this? So this is going to be very fun to see how this launching evolves through the whole process, right? So going back to your question about how we see, what's the vision we have for launch, we are organizing ourselves to be 24 hours online. So the vision that we have is we are already preparing a bunker where we all be there. Maybe some of the guys who are not in the capital of the country will be from their places, but we envision be working with 50 amazing teams all over the world at the same time. And I think that the work that all the teams are doing is amazing. We are coordinating. We already participate in 5 test nets. We are actually launching our own test nets today for the Dome 4. To be honest with you, we don't know what's going to happen, but we do know that we have to prepare for everything, right? So right now, we believe that EOS BIOS boot is a great tool. So we are trying, we are working very hard. We actually submitted some proposals to make a few changes, but we understand that it's very important to be prepared for everything. So in case that something happens, I think it's important to also understand how to launch a blockchain manually. So I don't know. I guess back to your question, it's very hard to see what's going to happen, but we are going to be working very hard to prepare for anything.
Oh, thanks, Sebastian. Sharif, can you go next?
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm Sharif from EOS Dublin. We're a block producer candidate based in Ireland, also an independent block producer. I suppose moving on to your question of what do we see the launch going to be looking like? I think it's going to go well. I mean, you only have to look at the last drop of code last Friday, and within an hour or two, there's nodes standing up in all of the test nets and connecting with each other. We're still 2.5 weeks out. The quality of teams in the block producing network working together in the Telegram channels and standing up is, it's phenomenal. I'm an optimist by nature. I think it's going to be, quite unremarkable. I think it's going to launch. It's going to go well. It's kind of what happens after launch that's the more interesting thing. Getting 15% staked. How do we move on to the next phase? And the whole move between centralized bug fixing, where at the moment Block 1 are fixing everything, to after launch, if we do have a bug, how do we get that in and deployed? And that's the real interesting part.
Yeah, sounds good, and I love your optimism too. That's always good to hear. And so Marcin, as well, if you could introduce yourself, please, and tell us your vision for the launch.
Yeah, hi everyone again. I'm Marcin. I represent Tokenika, which is a Polish company. We funded it about a year ago, but we come from a long tradition of supporting DPoS. Also, like Sebastian said before, we've been around since the launch of BitShares and probably even before that. So we witnessed all these things in their early days, and right now we're really excited that this has gone so far. And as to the launch itself, it's actually a bit like predicting the weather. It's we kind of see where this is going right now, but and that there is a lot of good communication happening between all the BPs and on all the lists and forums that we follow. But anything can happen. There's probably a lot of unknown actors that will sort of crawl out of the woodwork and will try to derail some stuff. So there's a lot of stake involved in this. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some dubious happenings also, like the DDoS or whatever other forms of attacks and things like that. And we need to be prepared for that. And I think this is more of a, I would see it as some sort of a surgical procedure that needs to happen rather than some sort of a competition or on who does better like that. I would love to see it as a very sort of a coordinated work that is well communicated. And actually, I think that the chaos in the information flow, because of its abundance, is such that it will have to pan out somehow. I don't believe that there's going to be room for any sort of, I don't know, egos or opinions or whatever. I think it's all going to be happening too fast, and we'll just need to kind of work as an army of ants rather than some individuated organisms that are trying to do something specific. So I'm actually of good hope in how this is going to pan out, but I think we're going to have to be extremely conscious of everything around us, and also kind of expect the unexpected, like things like chain fragmentation, like there's, you know, more than one sort of big EOS trying to happen at once, and things like that, which is what we've been discussing a lot already. And I think this is where the power is, actually, that we communicate constantly.
Yeah, thanks for that, Marcin. That's a very pragmatic viewpoint. Mr. Moss, Boy Moss, could you please give us your viewpoint on how the launch will go and your vision for that?
Hello, EOS community. Welcome. Thank you for, let's say, inviting us here for the community, let's say, discussion. Let's first introduce ourselves a little bit. EOS Amsterdam is a block producer from the Amsterdam area, and we represent Europe essentially for the block producing part. EOS Amsterdam exists out of 3 legs. One is a legal leg, which is represented by Jesse Spray, which is a partner in our block producer candidacy. He is a partner in a reputable firm. The other leg is let's say, it's Red Outcat Pool, who is an entrepreneur for 20 years and has done, let's say, runs a security operations center. And let's say that's me, the CTO from EOS Amsterdam. And I bring, let's say, 20 years of software engineering experience to the table. Our vision of the launch is that we, of course, follow the Telegram groups very carefully. And we see a lot of movement and a lot of questions being asked. But we also see, let's say, people converging towards, let's say, a structured approach in doing the launch. And we are really happy to see this happening. And what we expect to happen is that a selection of block producers, the serious block producers, will form a mesh network, and let's say, which will run stable for a few days. And at that point, essentially, the network will boot. And after verification and validation and checking if 50% of all the tokens are voted, it will, let's say, probably be a very smooth process. We will probably have, maybe we'll encounter some of, let's say, some problems, but the nice thing is, because we have such a flexible and knowledgeable community, that those problems will probably be solved pretty quickly.
Wow. It's great to hear. Yeah, thank you. It sounds like you have a lot of experience. So it's EOS Amsterdam. And we'll go to Zhao as well, please. And if you can introduce yourself, Zhao, and then also describe what your vision is for the launch.
Hey, hi, everyone. My name is Zhao Yu, and I represent EOS Lamo, the BP candidate, and we're based in Japan, Tokyo. But the most team members are from China. We just love this place, so we stay here. Me, myself, I have a 6 years development experience, both front end and back end. My previous job is a full stack developer at a Chinese company, focusing to teaching Chinese people English. 6 years. That's my only job. That's my first job, only job. Then I joined EOS Lamo team and do this BP candidate thing. And our vision for the EOS launch, I think, we saw massive collaboration, and which is really touching. we participate Bout session with Alex. I think about 2 weeks ago, and well, he's really passionate, and then I know that like he has 5 children to take care of, right, at the same time, and also the area, the community testing, the sleepless Eric, right? Yeah, he doing a lot of work to maintain the network and help a lot of people. And we finalized our BP infrastructure, technical infrastructure. We learn a lot from the community, and so we see this as a massive collaboration. And we really appreciate it, and we learn a lot from that. And I think, or we think, the EOS is like the biggest DPoS experiment, right? It's going to, it's exciting. It's like, well, creating the future or predicting the future at the same time. And yeah, that's how we view.
And Zhao, you
the
go ahead.
EOS launch.
It sounds like there's a bit of a delay there, Zhao. You have a bad connection, it sounds like. What we'll do is we'll move forward to Ravi, but you may, if you have a better connection somewhere else in the building, it may be worth, because we heard about 75% of what you said, and what we heard was pretty good. So, but we'll go on forth to Ravi and see if you can find maybe a better spot with better connection. So Ravi, where are you from and who are you with, and what is your vision for the launch? And Ravi, you may be on mute.
Yeah, I just got myself unmuted.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm Ravi Narayan. I'm with Block Pro One. And where I'm from US and also India. So Block Pro One is more involved in areas of blockchain consulting and product development, plus majority-wise into EOS development. That's where we really got jumped into it. I myself have about 25 years experience in areas of product management, in databases, in networking, and including being a software engineer. So even now I'm kind of get my hands dirty with some level of coding, and especially with EOS, it's been a lot of sysops, DevOps type of stuff that I've been working on, and it's been an exciting thing. And right now, I just came to India just for the sake of building some of the support organizations required. Now, just coming to the point of the launch, I think these are exciting times. And what I see here is there's a lot of unknowns, and the fact that we have so many different test nets that are running, and the experience across each of them is so entirely different. And so there's no collective information that's flowing through. Even though we have a launch group that's composed of all the different people that are involved, each day we are talking about a lot of different things that needs to go in terms of VPN, DDoS, and there's always this talk about having a collective VPN for everybody, a must, and there's some opposition to that as well. So trying to get a coordinated feeling of what's going on is something that's highly important here. And for me, having worked so many years, I kind of feel that trying to get a release and within 2 months, within 2 weeks, trying to get everything right is definitely going to be a challenge. So we kind of have to prioritize a lot of things to get there. And I do not know how many more releases are there between now and June 2nd, and how we are all going to sync with all that thing together as either multiple separate test nets or a single one, and whatever is the fallback plan in terms of say something is not perfectly right working, or we still need some more time to test through or anything like that. So those are things I think we should really think about also.
Well said. And go ahead there, Blue Jays.
Good, guys. Thank you, Ravi, for that. Now, the next question we'll leave as a open question, and you guys can chime in when you would like. So, and we can take turns. The next question is, what challenges do you see in the launch itself? And I know some of you have already expressed what you think the challenges are, but talk about what are the biggest challenges, the biggest risks that you guys see, and please speak up and then let others. Yeah.
I'll start. I'm Thomas Cox.
Okay.
Because we've never done this at full scale before, and we don't know exactly what problems will come up, I will suspect there will be some chaos and confusion and maybe even some finger pointing, although given how collegial everyone's been, the finger pointing might be minimized. But certainly like, wait, who's going to do what? And, are we on Telegram or for this, or are we using Keybase? Wait, I was going to talk to you on Google Hangouts. And I would suspect that between now and launch, we might want to do some really like malicious planning or anti-malice planning and a little chaos monkey thinking, and come up with hierarchies of how we want to disseminate problem reports and potential solutions and whatnot. And I say we as if I'm one of them, but I got a bowl of popcorn and an unopened bottle of champagne next to me as I'm watching this unfold. I can't even, if I wanted to help, I wouldn't know how. So it would be on me technically. But that's the kind of thing. It's going to be human factors. It's going to be responding in the moment on the fly to the thing that you didn't anticipate, and being able to communicate around the world amongst the 21 elected and plus the appointed, plus the BIOS boot node, plus 22nd through 30th place are the most likely to move up. And then the rest of us are going to be sitting around going, why am I not being voted for? And trying to keep the morale of your team up when maybe you didn't get the votes you wanted. When doggone it, you had such a compelling story. Or you see somebody struggling that you could do a better job than they could, you think maybe. And how do you not say something snarky because you're disappointed? Those seem like the most likely off the top of my head.
Yeah, I get the second. I really agree. And I think that the biggest challenge is going to be how we get to that hierarchy, right? How do we determine who we will follow, who will be in charge of what, who will be, what happens if there's a bug in the code, who's going to fix it. So how can we trust that fix? So I guess that will be, in my opinion, the biggest channel. So the biggest challenge is it's not a technical thing, but it's more like our organizational part of how we get to an agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe, I think we have a lot of very smart people working up here. There's a few things that I think we want to define as to what is code complete and what is like 99.99% of the quality control or what's being done. And what I see the challenge here is to educate maybe the first 15 or 20 who are the smartest guys who can just work their way out. And plus the rest 100 or 110, 20 people, there are like 200 candidates, right? So how do we get everybody in lockstep in terms of understanding the whole process, whether we need a tutorial or something which kind of explains a lot of things that needs to be understood? Because we don't want a situation where come launch, like some people are ahead and some people are behind, and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of coordinated planning that I see still hanging, and like real risk analysis, and what are the alternatives are some of the things that we should really look deep into.
Thanks, Ravi. Marcin or Boy, I believe you had something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that this whole process right now reminds me of where we're just kind of like a swarm of little insects that are getting to know each other, but they haven't taken off yet. And as soon as the swarm takes off, we actually have to follow one. And this is what we're trying to figure out right now, probably. But I do think that what is really important, we need to be ready for the chaos, like mentally, even if it's not it's not good state to be in, because we like to know things, and like Ravi pointed out correctly, there's a lot of things hanging and they get like uncovered every day. So probably just paying attention to whatever needs to be known, and minimizing the chaos is probably the best we can do. I think this is like this is kind of like watching our step even right now, and exactly acknowledging like what we don't know, and then what needs to be found out before this even gets attempted. There is also, at least to my understanding, like even if we don't get it off the ground right away, there's ways out. Like this also needs to be known, how to redo a failed attempt. I think that would also comfort a lot of people in these groups, because if everybody is just very uptight and what if we fail, and then just, you know, that's a different sort of a mindset, that having a failover plan as to the launch itself. But again, like I see this unfolding across many channels, and I think that the actual problem right now is that we don't have a common platform on which we could communicate everything. And like kind of like Thomas mentioned, that someone thought that we were communicating on Google Hangouts and someone else thought something else. And there are a lot of very smart people that could probably lead the herd. But since this is a global happening, which is so unprecedented, it is extremely hard to imagine how it's going to go. This is doesn't sound very concrete, but this is where we're at, I guess, you know.
We also noticed this on the, let's say, on the Trinity group, because when we started the Trinity group, then of course you get a lot of different candidates involved in essentially, let's say, thinking up a launch process. And then essentially one part of the group wants to automate, like completely, let's say, every step of the process, so that you essentially use the code and essentially an algorithm to determine the process, because then automatically you get a certain kind of consensus. That's one part of the philosophy. And then the other part is thinking, well, let's do it manually, because then essentially we can rehearse every little step, and then every block producer knows exactly what to do. And I believe, as in many things in life, of course, there should be a balance in this. And you already see this happening with 3 different groups converging to one. And essentially this one group essentially already starting, let's say, a Google document, and already starting to, let's say, under this evolutionary pressure of, let's say, launching on the 3rd to get aligned and get, let's say, consensus on every little step that has to be done to essentially launch the platform. So it's my belief that we will probably decide in the coming 2 weeks if we go, for example, with the road that EOS Canada already paved out a little bit for us, or make another solution for this. But let's say it's my belief that we really need to automate. Let's say go for, let's say, a hybrid approach of let's say automation and some manual backup.
Yeah, that's a great point, Boy.
Thanks.
Sharif or anybody else have anything else to add to there?
I think. Sorry, you go
Sharif
first.
Go ahead, Sharif.
It's just to reiterate a lot of the points that the people are saying. I mean, the real challenge is we're launching this across every time zone in the world with teams all around the world. So I think, as Thomas Cox said, we need to know what communication platforms are on. We need to know how to talk to each other. We probably need BPs within various regions to be, tighter communication, and then be able to communicate across the time zones also. But it's a challenge. But I think all of these challenges are recognized. People understand what they are, and as I said at the start, I'm optimistic that we'll find solutions for them.
I'd like to suggest something. Since we have all these different testnets running and we come across so many issues going on, if we could have an observer from Block 1 on all of these networks, that's definitely going to ease out a lot of pain. And as I see, even at this late stage, we are fighting with a lot of configuration problems. And a consensus has been a lot of issues. And on many test networks, we were, kind of kickstarting the whole car again and again. And then sometimes it keeps running and sometimes it falls down. And so people have worked some magical ways of getting through this stuff. But that's not the most desirable way. And I think in real life, there are smart people who may be able to get it run and push the car once the launch is done. But with a depots like this, with only 15 people, needs to be totally active out of 21. It's a totally different ball game than having a POS, a generalized POS or a POW. So that I think we really need to get deep into understanding, how we make this a foolproof process for anybody. And for example, I want to tell you that even there is a lot of communication managers kind of things for products that were developed by IBM. I had come across a scenario where the first APPC had a configuration which was so complicated, and to even have somebody sit down and understand it and go through that and configure their servers and clients used to take about 2 weeks, 3 weeks to properly do it. So we have kind of challenges like that I think we need someone to get in there and help us the way through as a group.
I think you might be hard pressed to get any help from Block 1. They're just putting software out, but that's just something I'm reiterating from what they've already said. So
I really don't want anyone waiting by the phone hoping that Block 1 is going to return your call over the weekend during the launch. This is the community launches or doesn't launch. Block 1 is only publishing software.
So would you say that the decision to launch will be totally on the community come June 2nd? Yes. Looking at the preparedness of the code?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll launch, don't worry.
There's a lot of confidence in the community, that's for sure.
Yeah. I'm totally confident about the community. Again, like I mentioned before, we see this process before with BitShares, with Steam. So it may be hard in the launching time, maybe come problems or whatever, but I'm totally confident on the technical capability of all the VPs that we are working in the testnets. And I'm 100% confident that we will launch. It may not be the first one who may have something, but we will reorganize and get it fixed. I hope it's going to be the first one. But if it's not the worst case scenario. It's not the end of the war. We should revamp again until we launch it.
I like that style. It's not the end of the war. Yeah. Go ahead there, Blue Jays.
Kevin, I was just going to say that speaking of some of the challenges that were raised today and the conversation me and you had earlier on with having a war room for our live stream, I think if anybody had a hard time finding contacts with other people or they needed some minor support, you could always reach out to EOS Go during that time Not that we would provide any technical insight, but we would definitely try and connect.
Yeah, we certainly
I think
would
that's,
give you.
that's a good service.
And I'm actually curious. So this is a little off the cuff in terms of the questions, but Thomas has mentioned, and was mentioned in the last block producer panel as well, about the security kind of trials, attacking each other, running some security audits with each other. Are there any plans in the works that you guys know of, that something that might be taking place or might be happening soon? And anyone is free to jump in.
Do you mean in preventing DDoS attacks, or let's say security attacks on the network?
Yeah, someone volunteer as the bad guy and then try to DDoS as others launch, kind of thing.
Yeah, well EOS Amsterdam partners up with Kahuna, and they have some pretty good security people, let's say, on the team. And let's say we were thinking about essentially doing some stress tests on our own infrastructure, because we were thinking about, so we were engineering an anti-DDoS scrubbing net. And let's say the idea arose, but that this just was recently, but we were thinking about this to actually design some kind of, not a test net, but like a stress net. And let's say different block producers could, let's say, join this stress net, and then essentially they would be exposed to different levels of, let's say, stress. Yeah? So more like, we were thinking about calling it, let's say, Dante's level of, let's say, hell. So you have level 1 till 7, and then essentially, let's say, the different block producers would go undergo different kinds of attacks. But essentially, this would require a lot of, let's say, coordination, and would require some resources. So we were just thinking about making this happen. But as the time is, of course, very short, we're not really sure we will make it. But we need to essentially develop this for our own infrastructure. So we could, for example, do something in a community that we would, let's say, test other block producers, let's say, setup. Let's say with some heavy load and some heavy, let's say, IP spoofed DDoS attacks on their infrastructure, just to harden their systems. So if anybody is interested in this, we would happy to oblige in that fact.
Yeah, we were actually going to follow a similar strategy. We were going to DDoS ourselves first of all.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the easiest thing to orchestrate. Try to attack yourself, since we have like running experience with running a Steam node, which maybe some of you know. So this infrastructure that we're putting up in place is sort of fireproof on the Steam network. And therefore, like, DDoS happens there also, and there had been multiple attempts of taking the nodes down. So we're going to run one of these tests on ourselves and try to see how it behaves, just to make sure that all the inlets and outlets on EOS actually behave in a similar manner. Well, they should, because the bare bones underneath are quite similar, but we need to know this for sure. So maybe we can exchange some, if we actually find the time to do this, because we have been so hectically busy. We just released this EOS Factory today, the smart contract testing platform, on which we were working for many, many months. So you guys might want to check it out also. It's like a unit testing, and everything is there. It's kind of like a truffle on Ethereum. But now, since this is out, we're actually going to focus 100% on the infrastructure and everything that there is to be done. So the self-inflicted DDoS is also in the works. We might actually exchange maybe some information if you guys try the same thing, how it went and what you did to prevent it.
Yeah, perfect. We will.
I think there's a good article about DDoS by, I think, EOS 42. I'm sorry,
Yes.
EOS 42. DDoS mitigation.
Yeah.
I think it's worth reading. It's a good article.
Yeah, it's really excellent. Actually, they came up with the conclusion that they basically go through multiple prevention techniques and run a proper test on that. So I think they're like, to keep it short, their findings are the Google load balancing is very effective on this. So everybody
I
take
was
note.
going to mention that, right? There's a lot of discussions about launching in cloud, and we are not so much concerned about DDoS because Google Cloud really has an amazing solution for that. So I don't know, for us, we are more concerned about vulnerabilities in the code, maybe. So we have a team of hackers, guys who really know how to find vulnerabilities in software. We already report a couple bugs to the GitHub, to the main repo, and also in some of the test nets. So I believe that could be more challenge. I remember in one of the test nets, it was a case when some instruction was run, the whole test net crash, or the whole node crash, the whole node that made that transaction. So we are more concerned about that happens, and that's why we have some guys who really understand the code that are going through all these little things, trying to find vulnerabilities in the code. And as soon as those are fine, we report them and try to find solutions for that.
You're talking more about like a Trojan horse type of attack, like something that
maybe small bugs or something in the code. I remember there was one that we reported that I have the GitHub over there from the main repo. It was a little thing, but it crashed your node, right?
Okay. All right, yeah, great set of answers, guys. Kevin, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, go ahead there, Blue Jays.
Okay. I think we've gotten the answers so far for that question. The next sort of question we had, which is a real sort of, someone mentioned before, check your egos. But this type of question is sort of meant to help that kind of community aspect come out. Who do you trust? Who do you have confidence in as not other than yourself, but other block producers in the community? We can start with Lao Mao.
Me, okay. Well, the first I think is EOS Canada. We have tested the bash boot with Alex, and actually we help him translate the document of bash boot into Chinese, and we also held bash boot session in Chinese community just to make sure that when they see the solution and when some Chinese BPs are selected to be the ABPs, that they know how to operate, how to go through the steps to launch the mainnet. And the second one is, I think, EOS crypto lines, I think, because we connected to their Django testnet really early. And I think the Django testnet is really stable, and they put a lot of efforts into building it, maintaining it, and that's the two teams I want to mention. Yeah, thank you.
Sharif, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say those two also, but I'd also throw in the mix EOS42. Charles and David are doing a really good job. Charles has done a lot of DDoS work. So they'd be my three: EOS Canada, Crypto Lines, and EOS42.
Cool. How about yourself, Sebastian?
I think there's a lot. It's very hard to choose a few, to be honest with you. There's a lot of guys who are doing an amazing job. If we have to pick someone out of the blue, I guess EOS Canada is no question. The guys are doing an amazing job with what they're doing. And EOS New York is also doing an amazing job, and Crypto Alliance with their testnets. We are also in the testnets from the beginning, and they they did an amazing job. But again, it's very hard to just mention a few because there's so many, right? Sometimes it's hard to, because if I have to tell everybody, there's many that they're amazing. I'm confident on the, like I said before, that we have an amazing team to launch the network.
Cool. Marcin?
Yeah, we seem quite equivocal about EOS Canada here for obvious reasons. Like they've been supporting this a lot, and also on a very technical level. So it's probably a no-brainer. Also, EOS New York, they seem like really helpful and sweet people. So and also extremely involved. I was going to mention the Crypto Alliance actually, and I thought I would be the only one, but yeah, it's clearly not the case. But I would second what Sebastian just said. Like it's, I feel we're in good hands. It's just that the hands, there's so many, you know. So you kind of, it's like a rock concert. You just take a dive and something's going to catch you somehow. But I'm pretty sure we have a lot of skilled people on board. It's just that the communication part, that's where it's at, I think. Like if we would distill the communication out of it and make it clearer, then I think things would sort themselves out.
How about yourself, Mr. Moss?
Well, I also agree with, let's say, Argentina. Let's say that we have many people contributing wonderful stuff to the community, of course. But from my experience, because when I entered let's say the space, I first contacted the EOS New York, you know, with some basic questions on let's say the block producing part, and they were very friendly and very inviting. So they were very, let's say, an ambassador for the EOS network. So I want to thank them. Crypto Alliance, because they were let's say the first testnet that allowed us to join, essentially. They're the testnet, and that experience was also amazing because we were very responsive and a lot of energy was put into this. EOS Canada, of course, for their amazing work on the BIOS. EOS 42 for their work on DDoS protection. I also like from the Asian side Huobi very much, because I have personal contact with the representative from Europe, like Kevin Lin. I also want to thank him for his support here in Europe. And as a strong technical party, I don't know them personally, of course, but the Bitfinex, because yeah, of course they have let's say big and they have lots of experience, and I believe from the technical part they will be able to support the network, like very, let's say, from a very solid point of view, because they have a lot of experience in the field. So that's something I let's say, a short list of the people I want to thank.
Thank you, Ravi. Ravi.
Okay, I thought you were going to leave me out from the hard job to be done. Since there are so many people, I basically, you know, a lot of help that has come from Crypto Alliance. I definitely like to acknowledge that. The amount of patience that Badon has out there has been outstanding, because even people who just get started even today as a new PP have been moving on pretty well on that testnet, and that's pretty amazing. And then Rio, in terms of Igor, has been very helpful in terms of a lot of stuff that we were trying to test out and getting opinions both ways. So that's about the amount of experience I have. And I'm very sure there are a lot of other great candidates out too, but we probably may not have gotten that close to many of them. So apologize for that, but I think we are all going to hang in together and make this happen.
Good deal. Thank you for the answers, guys. And I'd like to check in with Mr. Cox as well about his further thoughts on everything and any questions he might have for you guys.
No. I think we all know the problem set and the set of potential solutions. And my only advice is, somebody once said, you sweat in peacetime to avoid bleeding in wartime. And we've got a couple of weeks of sweating ahead of us if we want to not bleed on launch night. And by we, I mean you, because I'm just an observer at that point. If I can be of any help, if someone would like to say, hey, Tom, would you be so kind as to fill in the blank, whatever you want me to do, I'll pop in if invited to suggest something, promote something, be a hub for something, be an MC, roll dice, draw names out of a hat. I don't know what.
DJ.
DJ, sure. You tell me what to play and I'll play it. Guys, thank you for your courage in stepping up and bringing your incredible technical and social skills to bear. I can't wait to see what you do with it.
Well said, as always. Mr. Cox is always has something insightful and exciting to say. So thank you. That was great. Yeah. Any further comments from you guys before we go? Just anything we should know looking forward for the community? Just a quick 2 or 3 sentence answer from each of you guys about what the important next steps for VPs in the community might be in the next 2.5 weeks or so. We'll go ahead and start with Sebastian again, please.
Again. No, honestly, no. I think what we got from this call is like the share a key on the organization, right? So you got me thinking a lot about if there's any way to find that hierarchy, or if there's any chance to have a fail-back protocol in place, or with a parallel launch tools or manual tools. I hear here a proposal that one automatic launch and another manual launch. I don't know, but I think those are the things that I got from this call.
Good deal. Thank you. And we'll move to Sharif.
Yeah, I suppose we've got an interesting couple of weeks ahead. Not to get any more of the technical details. What I'm really interested in is, how do we finalize around governance, the worker proposals, arbitration? How does that all come, into a form that the community can pick it up and run with it and operate this network after launch? It's going to be a really interesting time. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Thank you, Sharif. And Marcin.
Yeah, I actually like to second what Sharif just said. I'm really looking forward to see how these things around the governance are going to play out. This is actually one of our concerns, as there's been a lot of talks about arbitration and how this is going to be put in place. I think that really needs to be looked into very carefully, and sort of like the corner cases have to also be examined, meaning that how these mechanisms could be used against the system. For example, can you DDoS an arbitrator? Suppose you just want to, I don't know, pollute the system with stupid arbitration cases which are impossible to solve. Like what would happen then? Like these questions just keep springing up to our minds, and we're actually as a company, and like this is also for myself, speaking off the record, not just Tokenika, but I'm a libertarian at heart, and I don't actually believe that too much regulation and arbitration and all these things in place are a good idea in such very broadly distributed systems. I think that even when you work for the best intent and you think you have the best idea, actually the variety of stances on a very single case of whatever is so vast that it's impossible to do. So like for future of EOS, I would actually let the market decide what things are feasible and what things are not. And even if the conclusions are not to everyone's likings, then we have the voting protocols, and everything else, the forking and whatever else needs to happen, and we have to live with the results. I don't think that too much regulation at this point is good. This is something that I actually wanted to say on this panel from the very beginning. So it's not me hijacking the 3 sentences that you just gave me, but something that is important for me to bring this up, especially the DDoS of the arbitrators. This something that hasn't been brought up, at least to my knowledge, and I think it could take the system down if some people decide to quarrel over everything and see how the system handles it. You have a gazillion court cases, and then the block producers have to respond to each and single one of them. Like, what would happen then? Mm-hmm. I just wanted to get it out there.
Good point, Marcin.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. And certainly the EOSIO governance channel will probably have a good time with that topic. That's interesting. I wonder what Thomas thinks about that as well. But for final thoughts moving forward to Boy as well, what are your final thoughts?
Well, very interesting question. So what's the next step for VPs and community? Because let's say looking at the space, you know, let's say for the last months, has been my whole world. But when the world looks at, let's say, our space, it's very small. And it is also, you see with, let's say, the volume of, let's say, Twitter followers, YouTube views, and another kind of, let's say, metrics. And what I find very interesting, and what I think is very important steps for block producers to engage in for the future, is to get, let's say, the big players, which have the big users, and make a very interesting case for them to essentially onboard, let's say, massive amounts of users. And it's an interesting thing. Eh? We were talking about, let's say, in our group, is that essentially what you want to achieve is that, let's say, the EOS blockchain technology will become widely adopted, but to make it widely adopted, it has to be very simple and very usable, very, let's say, grandma proof. And that means also that, let's say, essentially that part of the technology will disappear, right? So how do you, let's say, balance this, right? So essentially you're making something beautiful, which you cannot essentially show or brand in that sense. So I think that's a very interesting challenge for block producers to have some kind of ambassador role to let's say, big companies. EOS Amsterdam was also talking to, for example, pension funds here in the Netherlands in the coming days to display the technology. Another thing what I find very interesting is the GDPR, you know, because that's a European thing. And we have been researching this, and also, let's say, our legal partner in the block producer candidacy is also, let's say, cracking his head about this. And we will be writing more about this in the coming period, and also designing some, let's say, libraries to facilitate, let's say, dev developers on the EOS platform to be GDPR compliant. And so there's also a very interesting challenge, because especially, let's say, in that field. So, well, again, thanks for inviting us. And yeah, well, we're very excited to see how this platform is going to evolve in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Boy.
Yep.
And Zhao Yu, what are your thoughts?
Well, one of our concerns is about the snapshot, right? Because launching date is close, and the other day we tried the Genesis, the snapshot tool provided by EOSIO. It's fairly okay, and I think mainnet launching, first thing is we want to honor as many as EOS holders as possible, right? We don't want to miss some people, you know, you're stay on the ERC20 token. So we want to bring as much as EOS holders to the mainnet. So I think one of our concerns, I think it's really important. It's about user onboarding, I think, user onboarding to the mainnet. So I think at least the BPs should try the Genesis, generate their own snapshot, try to generate the snapshot and to verify that, and hopefully when we launch the mainnet, we will, you know, agree with their version, be honor as many as EOS holders as possible. Yeah, that's one of our concerns. And also, I think the BPs, especially the 21 elected BPs, maybe we should have some, I don't know, infrastructure standard, right, or recommendation for them to make sure the network is not that kind of vulnerable to attack, something like that. And I think the BP infrastructure group on the Telegram is really great, and we learn a lot from that. And I think it's a great thing. So I think, well, maybe we should have some standard about is some kind of recommendation for technical infrastructure, both a cloud side or if you're on bare metal or something like that. Yeah.
Good deal. Thank you, Xiao Yu. And finally, Ravi, what are your final thoughts there leading up to the launch?
Yeah, finally, what I think is we have both technical challenges as well as governance challenges. And I think at this point in time, at least, we should concentrate a lot more on the technical challenges. And I do second with Marcin in terms of the challenges in the governance area. The more lenient and more easier governance methods we start off with, it may be easier to add the more tougher protocols on top of it. Whereas if we start with a real stringent and not acceptable to many people, then we are going to, for each decision that's to be unbound, we may see so many different forks coming out of each of them, just like Bitcoin has happened. So I hope that's not going to be the case. And I think that things about drawing the lines between where the arbitrator power is versus the legal jurisdiction in each of those areas is something that we need to really look a little bit, a lot more deeper into for the long-term viability of this blockchain. Because if some wrong decisions get made and it gets overturned in the court, then we all have a bigger issue at hand to deal with. So maybe we should have some better help from legal professionals in this area also before we jump in. That's about it. Thank you for having me. I kind of woke up in the middle of the night to be with all you guys, and so excited about it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Ravi, and a lot of you guys. It's very late right now, all over the world. I know we have some from Europe, and of course, Ravi. And so, thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's been a great panel. I've enjoyed it again. It's been wonderful, and thank you, Thomas, too, for coming on. But we'll let you guys get some sleep, and yeah, good luck with the launch. Good luck with everything.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.